Welcome to the Refined Life Podcast. Today we're going to be getting into the music business, the dark, dirty, nasty side of the music business.
Nasty.
I'm talking about the gross side that we, thank God, have never had to be a part of, that side of it.
Shouldn't you have rapped just then? I feel like it was only right that he rapped us into this
Yeah.
one.
Oh, yeah. Try it again.
I got to think.
We'll keep the first one, too.
What's one
but-
of his raps?
Oh, you don't have to wrap him. You got to wrap us into the podcast.
It's how can it be? Somebody took my boy from me. No, that's Master P.
All right. Well, I think we lost that moment. So,
Just the two. No, that's Will Smith.
so what did you want to discuss today, Vinny?
So, a couple nights ago, I'm sitting there, just kind of chilling out. Everybody went to bed, and all of a sudden it pops up on my phone. P. Diddy's getting ramsacked at his house. And,
How's his?
His houses are getting ramsacked by federal agents.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the crap did P. Diddy do? What P. Diddy didn't, do. But anyways, it was kind of a baffle to me. I mean, I'd heard, this stuff gets crazy, and especially in the rap side of things and all this other stuff, but I'd never really seen that nothing happen. So I thought, well, maybe it's just people saying stuff. And all of a sudden I'm looking, it's like, oh, wait, no, they're actually raiding his house, and they got guns drawn and tactical gear
Looked
on.
like they sent in the National
Yeah,
Guard.
I mean,
They didn't take him in, but they did seize his phones. And
that's the interesting part. So apparently, literally like hours before this raid happened, he got on his private jet and flew to Miami.
yeah,
and then
let me add in this earlier.
Yeah.
We know absolutely nothing.
Yeah, no.
Everything that we have seen has just been internet, social media crap.
on
So
the news,
if anyone's like, that's not what happened, I have no idea what happened. I'd love, if you know what happened,
Yeah,
I'd love to hear what actually happened, but we're just pulling from social media.
I think for me, it's like, so apparently, allegedly, there was somebody that worked for P. Diddy that ratted out.
It was a producer is what they said
Yeah,
online.
maybe he worked with him.
He's being sued
He's being sued. Yeah.
by the guy that produced his most recent album.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Jones.
But then I watched another video that talked
Not
about
Dr.
him.
Jones. Dr. Jones.
That he was talking, but also then they brought in P. Diddy's supposed head of security, which happened to also supposedly be Michael Jackson's head of security. And P. Diddy always claimed that he could make anything go away.
Yeah, and they have actual video of him saying that and stuff. And so it's interesting, but apparently a few hours beforehand, somebody had tipped off Diddy, and Diddy got on his private jet and flew to a place where he can't be extradited, where they don't allow you to come in and extradite him, which obviously he's had this planned, Mm-hmm. So everything's pointing to, hey, this is real, and it was all had to do with sex trafficking.
Yeah.
And, apparently there's lots in his house, all these Diddy parties that he used to have, they would have hidden cameras all over the rooms, and he's got a lot of high-powered athletes, actors, officials, kind of like Epstein Island, like the Epstein of the hip-hop world is what they're saying. Yeah.
And so the last video I watched is that the security guy was also saying that the way that they were getting these girls is that they were drugging them without drugging them. So essentially, they were drugging the orange juices and the cranberry juices so that they weren't putting it in their drink. The girl was making her own drink and putting it in there. I don't know if this was the way that they didn't feel guilty about doing it. I'm not sure what this is supposed to mean, or somehow you get away with like, I don't know who put that in the cranberry. I don't know how, if they're getting away with some sort of technicality. But
Would you see they've detained his drug mule?
Yeah.
Yep.
Who was a basketball player for Syracuse University.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Detained
At
him,
one
and then
time.
also I think his one stepson and his other oldest son were there at the time of the raid, and they got handcuffed, and I don't know if they got taken to jail or what happened, or if they were just handcuffing them to make sure they couldn't get away.
Have y'all read any of the lawsuit?
I went through some of it, and saw there's a bunch more people on that list.
What about Cuban Gooding Jr.?
I know. And apparently they have
come on, radio.
Yeah, apparently they have some video of old Cuba.
The two that got me the most to adding truth to this, though, is Cat Williams being so outspoken
And he's been that way for several
one.
months before this has happened.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But when you look at someone like that, they have nothing but to lose by taking that stance. So it seems crazy that he's doing that. And he also claims that he's lost money by not being at these events, and that deals that didn't go down because he was like, when P. Diddy calls, you got to say no. You got to say no. You can't go to that party. You got to say no.
Hey, and then 50 Cent said the same thing, and Ice Cube said the same thing.
50 Cent. So when it crosses over to 50 Cent, that's the only tie that I actually have to being a personal thing of like, after meeting and hanging out with 50, I know that 50, the entire time we talked, and we talked for probably 2 hours, the entire time he's very, very dedicated to the urban youth, very dedicated to strengthening young black men and trying to make sure that there's more fathers staying in the homes. And he's very much about helping people. Now, he's got a shady past, but a lot of us do. And a lot of us that want to help people is because of our shady past.
Right.
But 50's been talking about P. Diddy for a while.
Yeah, he's the best intel
apparently,
there is.
Diddy has a shady past, a shady present, and probably a shady future.
And an R. Kelly future. But, dude, I mean, I don't... apparently, a lot of people are coming out and talking about it. Even Usher, like, he lightly went around the subject on Howard Stern and going, there was some suspicious stuff going on over there.
Yeah.
So,
and he went in there when he was like 13 years old.
13, and yet they asked him, like, so would you let your 13-year-old son hang out with? He was like, no, hell no.
Well, then
didn't Usher's parents? I think I read that Usher's parents gave Diddy
custody,
parental rights while he was recording his first album at 13, and so he lived there. He saw everything happening.
Yeah, that and then apparently there was a 48-hour period where Justin Bieber was there staying, and there was like, he goes, it's every 15-year-old boy's dream. I think he was 13 at the time or so, but so he's getting to, he goes, we can't talk about it, but it's every 15-year-old boy's dream. And I was just like, I remember my dreams when I was 15.
Yeah, I think in part of that, because wasn't it an interview with Diddy, Bieber, and Diddy's oldest son at the time?
Maybe.
And they asked Bieber, and he said it was every 15-year-old kid's dream. And Diddy asked him, what do you want to do? And he said, go get girls.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
So another part that
when I was 15, that
interesting,
probably would have been my answer too.
And I'm curious, how many of these tapes that he has in order to blackmail or destroy people. The producer also mentioned that Diddy made him perform different sexual acts that were humiliating for him.
Right.
And
because he wanted to use blackmail against them, right?
Right. So I'm also questioning, like, how much is that going to come out with different celebrities when those names start getting released, if they do? How many of those are going to be like, I didn't want to do this. I was 18. I was 19. I was whatever. I mean, because we forget these people are high-powered stars now, but they weren't always.
Yeah.
And I understand, like, not that I've done anything like that, but I also understand how powerful of a tool that is when you walk in to see those gold records.
Yeah, you
when
got somebody's hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
And especially when some of these artists were very young, some of them were only 12, 13, 14, 15 years old.
And some of them came from rough places where they're like, oh, this is what I got to do? Okay.
Yeah, this is way better than, the alternative. I think that, those kind of things would be one thing, if they get embarrassed because, man, I shouldn't have done these things, but they were kids, or they were young, but I think the ones that are going to be, and we may never see them, we may never know. I mean, obviously Epstein and what's her name has been, Ghislaine Maxwell, has been arrested for sex trafficking, which means they have to have proof that they sex trafficked, which would mean they would have to know who they sex trafficked to,
right,
in order to arrest them.
But with that being said, you take, like we were talking about, people coming in at an earlier age.
Yeah.
You can also see, like, if someone, is 35 and they're doing this stuff now, right?
Yeah.
But if you had introduced a 13-year-old boy to this, that's all they really know, man. So that becomes a total different thing of like, yeah, you're 35, you should know better. But you were also introduced to this at 13 and then continued in that life, which is a very different thing as well.
Well, apparently, though, one of the crazy things, so Diddy was signed and then left his label and created Bad Boy Records. Mm-hmm. And Clive Davis got behind him. Maybe
What do you mean behind him?
I'm just saying there's been rumors that Clive Davis, he's one of the biggest people ever in the history of music industry, that Clive Davis, was kind of the money and the mastermind behind those things. And it was when Diddy was younger. And there has been, of course, the rumors. And these are just rumors. Like I said, I don't know any of this to be true or not true. But the rumors was that they had some kind of relationship, whether it be sexual or physical or whatever you want to call it.
Well, that would make sense because in the lawsuit it states that Diddy grooms these younger guys by finding out who their idol is and showing them where their idol has done what they're being requested to do. Yeah.
Well, I think it's very telling because I have a friend who was one of the people that was part of the head of cinematography for the Epstein deal when they were interviewing the girls for the was it Filthy Rich or whatever the documentary was on Netflix. And when they're going through all this, maybe it was the Epstein files, whatever it was called, but he said, Vinny, there's so much stuff in there that we weren't allowed to put in because until it's proved, you don't want to go out there and bash somebody until it's proved. But these girls said X, Y, and Z. They said this person, they said that person. And I thought that was interesting, because, some of these people I think were brought in under the guise of like, hey, we're going to invest in your movie, or we're going to invest in your record label, or we're going to invest in your venture. Then they get there and the next thing you know, they're in a pool with a bunch of girls, and they may not even know necessarily how old these girls are.
Like you don't.
But then they have tape of them doing it, so they're like, "Hey, we're going to blackmail you."
You don't typically talk about what this was, but even thinking back to 4 years ago, me and you were presented with a deal that could have been very, very lucrative to us, but it was something that we didn't believe in, that went against our morals, our spiritual beliefs, and thinking about that was still a decision that we had to think about in that moment. That I can't imagine being 13, 14, 15, so even 24. Yeah. I can't imagine when you walk into that and you're like, oh, this is just what this is. This is just how we live. And knowing just the parts of the industry, and we haven't been that far into that, but just the parts of the industry that we've been in and how much we've watched. The reason we haven't
is because we said no.
Well, I'm saying like that.
There's these teasers that come your way.
That's true, no and there's something you feel that evil, and you're like, I'm not going to go any further into this. But we know for sure, though, that even on the levels that we've been at, the power that you have at different levels, and the way that you start to, and the way that people even train you to almost not see these people as people. Yeah, these are fans. These are and it's a really weird spot that had I not been grounded, had Vinny not been grounded, you understand how easy it would have been to get lost in that power and then crave more and more and more of that.
Well, especially if you were, like you said, a 13-year-old kid and they're putting, the person that you've looked up to your whole life in front of you and saying, look at this. We work with them. We do this with them, And so, it's just such an interesting topic to me just because, like I said, me and Jared have been in the music industry for a long time, and we've obviously seen some suspect things, but we've also never said yes to said suspect things. Right. And like I said, they were never this kind of stuff. And it was always money. It was always like, hey, if you come here, you're going to make this money. I don't feel right about that, and we don't do that.
I don't think you close this off to the music industry because the reality is that the big money is always outside of the music industry. The people who are backing the music industry, the people who are behind all the big labels and all that, typically, have nothing to do with the actual music industry where that money's coming from. P. Diddy and all those guys, they still answer to somebody. There's still somebody bigger than them. Yeah. And
his name is Jay-Z. He's worth $5 billion. I'm just kidding.
The reality
is he is part of it. He is their
Jay-Z. The reality of big business in general, and the corruption there, and the people and all the different things. Like you talk to my wife of all the different people that she's had marketing deals with, and the companies she's worked with, and the, horse shit that she's seen them pull, as business people. It's a gross world out there. And like I said, for me, I'm glad that I've got God, because I'm afraid that I would get lost in the same crap that all these other people get lost in.
Listen, I'm literally talking to a friend today kind of about some of this stuff, and he told me about a time that about a year ago that he was taken into, he was invited to a party at a house, and $250,000 in cash was laid in front of him and said, "Hey, I want to put this behind you for your music and all this kind of stuff." He goes, "This is just a start." He goes, "But I just want to give you this to, so you have money to live on and get you going." And he didn't feel right about it, so he just said no to the deal. He said, "Man," he's like, "I'm not sure I want to be, tied to anybody just yet." And it turns out that this guy that was offering him that had been in a lot of trouble with the law when he was younger, and then now there's some potential money laundering scheme things that are there. And so he said no, and then now just a few months later or whatever it was, that it's been since then, when I'm talking to him today, he's like, I wanted to say yes because I needed the money. And he's like, but something just didn't feel right about it to me, and so I said no, and turned down a big old briefcase with $250,000 in cash in it, And so I think, like I was saying with us, we've never taken the bait. So I think there's this like, hey, here's some money, and it's good money. I mean, it wasn't life-changing money, but it was money that would have helped us.
Yeah, but a lot of that's probably from lessons though too, because you've also taken smaller amounts of money from different people that still tried to kind of control you.
Yeah,
like,
that's happened.
So
for
you
sure.
start to learn. By the time you're 40, you're like, oh, money isn't free. If you're offering me money, there's something that you're expecting out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen. I mean, my first time ever getting offered something outside the box was, I don't know if I want to go into full detail, but I got offered basically like, hey, we can make you a star, but you have to come do this. And at that point in time, it was the Church of Scientology was basically saying, if you join the Church of Scientology, we own this outlet and that outlet. We can make you this and that, and not throwing any names up. But it was put to me. Now, I said no. There was never any disrespect. There was never any weirdness there. The person ended up being very nice to me throughout the years. But it was definitely the offer that was put out there for me to go to Clearwater, Florida, and go study the, Scientology ways and all that kind of stuff. But I do have to say, like they after that initial offer, there never was any pressure. There never was any thing. It was just like, hey, we could help make you a bigger star.
Yeah.
I said, no,
And I saw the same thing with myself, but I also noticed that after I said no, there really wasn't any business there.
There was no business there, but there was no pressure,
No, there was no pressure. But business was growing strong until that moment.
So is this
True,
why
true.
So I've obviously never been a part of the music business, but I'm around it.
Yeah.
Due to you guys and other factors, but there's some massive talent in this world that, and we get to experience some of that. And the first question you hear a lot of people say is, why haven't they made it yet?
Yeah.
And for some of them people, is it because they say no?
For some people, I think that's
for sure.
definitely the case, because when you say no to somebody that is in power, they're not used to hearing no. So when you say no to them, they want to keep you from becoming successful, because if you become successful without them and you said no to them, well, that makes them kind of look bad. However,
or just the fact that you're just not working with the right people because of that. I mean, I don't think that most of them think that you're taking a moral stance. I think that most of the time it's just like the guy that he talked about. There's just something that feels dirty and you don't really know what it is, but you get a weird feeling or a bad
sometimes it's
feeling,
right in your face and like, no, not doing that. That was one of our situations.
Right.
Other times you're like, I don't know why, but I just don't feel good about this. And I think that, God gives you these gut feelings. Discernment of the spirits is definitely a gift from God. And, we've been blessed to discern the right way, I believe, every time we've been put in those situations.
Now, that's not to say that people who are very successful, that they do that. That's not by any means.
So that's my follow-up question is the ones that do make it. From a percentage stance, what do you feel like percentage-wise?
No clue, because, I mean, like, you're just I mean, it's like tax law to me, the music industry. There's such a fine line between what's legal and what's illegal, if you're doing it right. So, I mean, like, it's when you get into that, like, it's marketing, and what part of marketing was okay and what wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that goes along with that, too, is just because you're more talented don't always mean that you're going to resonate with people. So one of the main things that it's almost impossible to stop is if somebody just naturally resonates with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, you'll see this. Now, what happens is some of these kids on TikTok, they started putting out these videos of their songs or whatever. Maybe they're not the greatest singer, or maybe they're not the best looking, but for whatever reason, they had a group of people, their niche or whatever you want to call it, identified greatly with them. and was willing to spend the money and was willing to tell their friends and was willing to share their content. And that blew them up big enough to where then the music industry goes, wait a second.
Yeah.
Don't you come over here? Let me sign you to a big old record deal, And I think there's been some of them that have taken those deals and they've done great with them. Now, I don't know what's been offered or hasn't been offered. I don't know past that story. Yeah. But I do know there's a couple that said no to those deals who are still doing just fine. Now, is there a point when they say, hey, I think in order to get to the next level of fame, if you want to be on the award shows, if you want to be, winning the awards and doing all that other stuff, at that point, you have to be with a record label. You have to be with the big names because the way the industry works is, a CMA award, it's voted on by the industry. So whoever has the most employees or the most voters theoretically can control it. So if Sony wants to be like, hey, you know what? We want Carrie Underwood to win this award. And somebody says, well, we want so-and-so to win this award. And Universal and Sony could come together and say, okay, let's give you Entertainer of the Year. But this year we're going to get male vocalists and female vocalists of the year. Next year we get Entertainer of the Year and you get male and female vocalists of the year. So
it's still,
those kind of things happen.
It's still not any different than every other business, though. Because you think about any other business that becomes a household name, what did they have to do to get that?
Yeah.
What you either had to be so much better than everyone else, or you had to have a product that resonated with everyone, or you had to do some illegal,
or you just had to have
crap.
a mega ton of money put behind you, and
but even then, though, we've watched a ton of people that had a ton of money put behind them, but they just didn't have whatever that was that America wanted.
The ton of money can. I mean, I've seen it happen where millions of dollars get spent on trying to take people to radio or trying to take people to, become stars, and the people just don't see it. People, and I've seen it happen with super talented people. They're like, golly, that guy can sing, or man, they're really good at their craft, or acting, or they're painting, or whatever it is, and for whatever reason, it doesn't resonate, and people don't find value in it. I mean, you look at Chris Stapleton. This dude was here for a long time, and we all saw value in it because we were like, holy crap, I don't ever want to have to go on after that guy when he sings. But they put out a song to radio called "What Are You Listening To?" It really didn't take off. Now, how much radio played it during drive time versus if they played it at 3:00 in the morning or whatever. Right. But until Justin Timberlake come along and said, "Nah, this is my guy. Everybody love him." He was in that same. Now he had some hit songs he had written for other people and things like that, so he's making money. But he wasn't this big star that he is now. Yeah. And now it's almost like it was said it's okay to like Chris Stapleton. Once again, we all loved him. We all was like, holy crap, this dude is the best. Yeah. But it was like until this, almost like, and not that Timberlake was ever trying to keep him from it. Timberlake loved him and got behind him. But it was like, basically he had to threaten, from what I've been told, he said, I'm not coming on the award show unless Stapleton plays with me. At the time, Stapleton was, $6,500 a night?
Yeah, maybe.
I think I was booking him.
No one really.
And that thing hit, sold 100 and something thousand records overnight, and the next thing you know is the number one selling record in the world, for that time. And I remember because I had one of the white vinyls that they printed, and I had it autographed. Lost that in a divorce, but whatever. We talked about that before. But yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, I don't know if there's a rhyme or reason to any of it, except for we do know that at some point you may have to take a deal that's going to make sure that the people, the powers that be, make money.
Well, once again, I take it back to regular business. Anytime someone's coming to you and wants to do business with you, it ain't for you.
Yeah.
Someone's making money off of you. No one's just like, hey, you know what? I want to give you this money for no reason.
Send your son up here. Give me parental rights, and we'll make his first album.
But I think, I agree with that. But also, I think that you bring stuff to me that makes us money. I bring stuff to you that makes us money. We bring deals to each other to work together on things like that. It's not, I think as friends and people you can have those
more like if the big fish is coming to you, he ain't coming to you just because. Yeah. He sees some way to make money off of you.
And it could be that he sees potential in you and says, hey, look, I want to work with that guy. This guy's going to make a lot of money. I want to be part of it. So let me put in some money to help get him started, And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that it's, as long as you feel morally right about it, if somebody comes to you and says, dude, I love what you're doing, I want to amplify that times a million.
Yeah, but there's still the fact. I saw Chris Wallen say something on TikTok not long ago. If you don't know who Chris Wallen is, a hit songwriter, amazing songwriter, amazing man. And he said he was signing his first publishing deal. Yeah. And he said that he was talking to a friend, and he said, "Did you get a good lawyer?" And he said, "Oh, I'm just using a lawyer there." He wasn't signing his first publishing deal. I think he was signing his first publishing company with that publishing deal, co-venture. And he was like, "We've been working together for years, so this really isn't a big deal. We're just going to use the same lawyer." And he was like, "Huh, how old are you?" And he was like, 28. And he was like, "How old is the president of that company that you're having this conversation with?" He's like, "I don't know, probably 58. And he was like, "So he's 30 more years in this business than you." And he was like, "Yeah." He was like, "He's been looking at contracts 30 years longer than you." And he was
Longer
like,
than you've been alive.
Yeah.
He was like, "So do you think that contract is going to be in his favor or even or your favor?" And he was like, "Oh." He was like, "Yeah, no matter how much you look." And he's like, "And by the way, who pays that lawyer that you're talking to?" He's like, "He does."
Yeah.
Like, right. He's like, "You better get your own lawyer." And he's like, and thinking about that way of like, when anyone's trying to do a deal with you, there's a reason they're trying to do a deal with you, and it's probably in their favor.
Yeah. No, I mean that's part of business. Like you said, not just in the music industry.
I mean, we don't do contracts between each other, but we've had this discussion. When you pin us down and push us to do a contract, it's probably going to be in my favor, because why would I sign a contract that was in your favor?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm protecting me.
I
trust me.
I don't
we've
trust
ever
you.
had
A contract between us.
No, but right? I mean, are we not almost all the same page with that? If you're going to do a contract, I'm protecting me. I'm not protecting you. I trusted me already.
Yeah. I know what I want.
I know what I'm going to do. Like,
no, which is funny though when you say that, because we're such probably cost us a lot of money over the years, but we're straight up with people. Like, we tell people they're wanting to book us for a show, and we're like, "Hey, this is about what I can bring to your bar. So if you want to have a great time and do this, then this would be the way to go about it." We've been very honest with people, because I don't ever want to feel like I'm hurting somebody else to make, And I think there's so many times that, I book a lot of shows, and some of the prices I get pitched for some people, I'm like, I know they can't sell half the amount of tickets it's going to take to make all that money. And I think that, and then also it's like almost like the booking agencies want to penalize you if you're a good promoter. Well, hang on now I want this guarantee, but if you sell more than what this is, we want extra on top of that. Well, I'm like, well, but you're saying this is what his pay is.
But if we do worse, can I pay you less?
Yeah.
No?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, and so they're hinging like if you're successful at your promotions, then we want more of the pie. But you have to give us this no matter what. So I get that, how that works in a bar, because it's like, okay, in a bar that holds 700 people, if they're going to put X amount of dollars on the line, and you say, okay, I want to do it versus a back end deal. But if I'm doing an outdoor festival and I got to guarantee you 35, 45, 50, 60, 70 grand or whatever, there ain't going to be no like, oh, if you do good at promoting and you sell lots of tickets, give us more money. No.
Yeah.
So
You seem like you keep trying to ask a question.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it back around to Diddy.
No.
Is he a federal informant? Is he a Fed?
Is he a Fed?
Yeah. Has he been working for the Feds the whole time? Even though he's doing all this shady shit. Has he been,
just setting other people up?
tasked with doing it?
To set other people up?
I don't know.
So what you're saying, like tasked with, because he had all the hidden cameras in his house, was he tasked with getting all this footage so that they have the ability to put
Will we ever know the truth?
I mean, I'd hope not, for only one reason, of the fact of like, that's really crappy to be like, hey, let me push you into something and try to get you to do something wrong and then videotape you and get you all in trouble for it. Like that's because from everything that everybody's talked about, he's the leader of this. He's not just around the party. He's not filming just what happened at a party. He is creating that party.
However, but what if he was put in that position and they said, hey, we got you now. So now you're going to throw all these parties and you're going to be this big famous star and you're going to throw all these parties and you're going to make sure you get cameras on everybody so that we can get all the,
Well, then they all had that coming to them then. I got no problem with that then. If that's all it was, like, hey, all these people are doing bad things.
I don't know.
Will we?
We definitely haven't heard.
I don't know. Maybe we should get 50 Cent on here.
Yeah. Well, you have his number.
I mean, you know him.
I have his guy's number. I don't think anybody has his number.
Well, still, hey, listen, you give me the number, I'll call it. He won't know who I am. I'm like, hey, it's Big Vinny.
I mean, we did call Taylor Swift one night.
That's true.
That's true. Her old numbers.
Her old numbers.
We didn't make the new call log, the new call list. No, I don't know if we'll ever. I mean, look at the Epstein thing. I mean, look how long these two have been arrested, and one of them allegedly killed himself.
And why do we not know the Epstein thing? Was he a Fed?
I don't think that you keep bringing up the Fed thing. I don't think it has anything to do with Fed. I think it has everything to do with who else is on that tape.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, that's what I honestly I believe that too. It's like
where there's money and power and fame, and everything. There are politicians.
They said
how
athletes,
they're keeping people in check, though.
Politicians.
I mean, right.
Actors.
I'm just saying where there's money, fun, power, celebrities, politicians are definitely involved in that.
But let me ask you this: how many people were just showing up to a party to hang out with a famous, rapper?
Once again, I'm going to go with just the fact that we've been in those sort of rooms, and you still feel that vibe. And there's certain places you walk in and you go,
yeah, but what if you were already in? There's cameras now. You didn't do anything wrong. I guess it would show.
Well, what are they going to show? If you didn't do anything wrong, they ain't anything to show.
Oh, well, he came in and lived.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I was thinking like, they've posted a lot of pictures on the internet of Diddy with people, but I'm like, Diddy's been with every celebrity there is. He's been at every award show, every red carpet, everything for 30 years, 40 years, however. I mean, since I've been a kid,
probably since late 90s.
So you look at that. So I mean, he's got pictures with everybody. So everybody automatically posting pictures like, oh, they must have been part of it. I'm like, I don't think you can do it like that,
Well, no, but you also have, once again, he's probably got pictures with 50 Cent, but he's talking. He's probably got pictures with Cat Williams, but he's talking. He's definitely got pictures with Usher, and Usher's like, hey, man, I don't know what's happening, but.
I definitely think any of them that are coming out like, I told y'all this weird stuff was going on. I mean, they're talking out, you can pretty much be like, well, they're cool with whatever comes out. So that they got a clean conscience.
Yeah.
So the ones that are kind of sitting back being like, oh, they might think, I wonder what they got on me. I wonder if they were filming that night whenever I was there.
Right, like you could totally see if a video came out where Cat Williams actually showed up, you could totally understand that he might have showed up and went, hey, I don't think I need to be here.
This is not my spot.
I'm going to go ahead and
I tell him no.
Yeah. You got to tell him no.
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting, to see. And I think that, regardless if you're like me, when I was watching an interview with Ice Cube, I wish I was talking to Ice Cube. He basically said, he's like, I used to be part of the club. He goes, and I didn't like what the club was doing. So I got out of the club. He goes, and it's cost me, like Cat Williams said, a lot of money for me to say no. He goes, and people turned their back on me and stuff whenever I was like, no, I'm not going to be part of that.
Well, Cat was like, it's cost me $50 million twice.
Oof.
I believe it.
It's a lot of money. But he's still got his soul intact,
Yeah.
So I think.
Did you see him run the 40-yard dash?
Yeah, I think it was more like a 25-yard dash, 25-foot dash.
You think?
Yeah, you gotta go look at it. He was in a gym.
No, the one I saw, he was on turf.
No, I didn't see it then.
He ran it in sub 5 seconds.
I don't think so.
I mean, he's a little guy.
He might have.
Sub 5.
I did see today that when they timed Michael Jordan in the.
He's been running from Diddy for a long time, so
you gotta be fast, get away from Diddy. Jordan ran it in 4.38. That was come out today. So
really?
Who knows if it was real? I mean, I see memes all the time. The other day I saw this meme where it said, Wilt Chamberlain said, LeBron James is the greatest of all time, and Michael Jordan can't even compare to him.
Whoa!
However,
blasphemy.
However, Wilt Chamberlain died in 1999. LeBron didn't come into the league until 2000 or whatever it was. Yeah. So that was, somebody just made that up and put it on the internet just to be like, yeah, this happened, but it really didn't happen.
But it didn't happen, yeah.
Oh, well, to wrap this up on a whole nother note that we'll have a whole nother podcast about sometime in July is, speaking of like Jordan and people like that, I cannot tell you how excited I am to watch this Tyson fight.
Yeah.
I'm saying Tyson fight because I really think that's the only person fighting in this ring. I just don't understand how
if
this whole thing seems like a hoax to me. I can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah. If I know the Paul kid has been training and fighting,
but you're talking about a legend.
I know, but so I don't want to take away from the work he's put in, but that work he's put in does not equal getting in the ring with a true Mike Tyson. It's just not like there's no way in hell he can fight Mike Tyson.
No, I don't care how old Mike is.
Yeah, I don't either. Have you seen his workout?
Yeah, and everybody keeps saying, well, I think those videos might be rigged and sped up, but dude, it's still.
Doesn't matter if it's.
You're going to have to knock him out out of the gate because if he lands one good punch, there's no way that Paul is ever taking a punch like that.
No, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, everybody he's fought have been MMA fighters who are not boxers.
Yeah.
And then they could be rigging this, but I also have trouble believing that Tyson would do that.
This would be the biggest pay-per-view maybe ever. So
Yeah. And a big marketing scheme by Netflix.
it's a lot of money.
Since when have they hosted?
They're hosting it, and it's free.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no telling how much just the sponsorship money alone.
Yeah.
So it's not a pay-per-view.
Not
So it's going to be straight. And it's straight up.
Netflix doesn't have a way to do that, do they?
Not, but it'll be a first time.
No.
I know of.
Well, there's people that are paying a month. They either got a percentage of that monthly memberships, or they'll say, hey, in order to watch it, you got to add Netflix. So they'll know how many people added it,
Maybe so. I mean, but as far as I know, Netflix doesn't have a way to take money in addition yet. They've never done a pay-per-view thing.
No, but they could say, hey, if you want to watch this fight, you got to sign up. And how many people sign up, that week or that night?
Yeah, but if you already signed up.
Like Peacock did last year with the football games. I don't know. I mean, I want to watch it because,
Well, I'm going to have a party at my house, so.
Dang it, I was going to have a party at your house.
Oh,
yeah.
You can do that.
I couldn't do it at my house.
Did you say you're going to be grilling?
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Yeah, me too.
See
Andy Holmes, get us some meat. All right, well, here's the deal. The last little piece of the music industry before we go into the next episode, because we got our guy waiting on Zoom. We lost Irv Woosley this past week. And it's been a hit for the music industry here lately on people passing away. And Irv, I always admired Irv and George Strait's deal because 50 years ago they shook hands and said, we're going to do this 50-50. And they did it like that. There was never any, as far as I know, there was never any animosity. There was never any.
Well, let's clear that up for the people that don't know, because most people don't. This was George Strait's one and only manager
for 50 years.
50 years. They split everything 50-50.
Yeah.
Like everybody else, there's things that people talk about, but I've never really heard a bad word about
Not
Irv.
one time. Yeah.
I think it gets mixed up sometimes because there was a lot of people around him that I heard bad words about, but not with him. And I mean, this is a guy that worth that kind of money that was still standing his own bar,
hanging out.
And unless you knew who he was, you didn't know those people that came in there. And I mean, last time I was in there, I walked straight up to him. Was like, he stayed behind that little bitty velvet rope. But I mean, anybody, you could walk behind the velvet rope. Like no one really did anything to you, but. I walked up to him and was like, hey, man, I got this new kid, Jackson Wayne. I'd like to get him playing in here. Yeah. And he was like, absolutely, send him his stuff over. Yeah. I didn't know at that time that he was apparently in bad health. But, I mean, he was still that approachable, that touchable after all the years of being George Strait's right hand.
Yeah. And awesome. And I think he kind of was the one that, threw a little cash because he owned several bars in Texas right before.
Yeah, so that deal was with George is he said that he'd put him in all of his bars to get him started, and I think it started off kind of backing him a little bit, maybe paying him a little more than what he deserved because he wasn't anybody at the time, and created that following.
He's a rodeo
I think
guy,
he had
right?
8 bars then, and I think if I'm not mistaken, at some point in time, George became 50-50 partners in everything that Irv
all the bars,
had,
everything,
as well as Irv took on 50% of everything that George.
They basically
made.
just took all the money and put it in a big pile and said, "This half is yours, this half is mine." Or maybe they had joint bank accounts and they just get whatever they want whenever they want it.
Which George had already been to Nashville, and Nashville denied him. And Irv apparently was like, "Hey, man, I think they just did it wrong. I think they're not thinking about you correctly."
And then they put him in Pure Country, and it was over with after that.
His career?
60 number no. The unbelief was over, and then he had 60 number ones, more number ones than anybody in the history.
Yeah,
of
I mean
music.
that was an amazing comeback because I mean, was it Pure Country? Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that most artists couldn't have taken that hit. That wasn't a great move.
You saw what happened to Garth Brooks, and that movie didn't even come out. Anyway, well, look, we're just touching base on this. We will have a follow-up episode on the P. Diddy A follow-up episode. Yeah, I like that. We'll have a follow-up episode once we figure out more of this P. Diddy stuff. But we just wanted to throw our thoughts out there and what we're thinking. And what we're thinking is we don't have a clue what's going to happen, but it's very interesting, and it's keeping our attention. Because, we've been in the music industry, and we've never been in that side of it. But I'd like to always try to...
There's a lot of sex trafficking and human trafficking out there. Somebody's got to get caught. Yeah. Somebody's got to get caught.
Somebody's got to be the one to get caught. I thought about that too. Well, maybe he's just a scapegoat. Maybe they're just like, hey, it's time for you to go down, bro. You've been a multimillionaire for, 30, 40 years, but your time's up.
The devil's like, hey, you remember our contract.
Yeah. Hey, that's no joke.
Is how this goes
Yeah.
down.
Crossroads, you won't be lonely. Meet me at the crossroads. You won't be lonely. Skittle everybody. Skittle everybody. At the kind of bird that they stood up and get the game. Sorry. That's Bone Thugs and Harmony. Like, share, comment, give us 5 stars. We love you. And remember, the earth is flat.
Oh, shit.
All right. Let's get this switched over and
I
get
got
Brian
to
on.
tinkle real quick.
Yep, me too.